On the dining tables of the wealthy, there's always one thing that almost no one talks about. It's not a luxury brand or some rare antique. It's small, ordinary looking, and yet without it, money seems to vanish faster than it comes in. With it, opportunities tend to linger, business feels smoother, and the home carries a sense of quiet abundance. You may have walked past it 100 times without realizing its significance. You may even have one somewhere in your house, but not in the place that truly matters. The truth is, for those who understand how environment shapes outcome, the dining table isn't just a place to eat. It's the energetic center of the home. This is where family connects, where conversations shape decisions, where the mood of the household is set for the day. The table can either hold the kind of energy that invites prosperity to stay, or carry signals that silently push it away. Wealthy families know this, and they arrange their tables with quiet precision. They place certain items not just for beauty, but to keep a constant flow of positive, stable energy moving through their home. And they are equally careful about what never, ever sits there. You might think of it as setting the stage, because in a way the dining table is a stage. The actors are the objects you choose. Some draw the audience of wealth in, making it want to stay for the whole performance. Others send it walking out before the first act is over. In the next few minutes, you'll learn exactly what to put at the heart of your table so that it works for you, not against you. But first, take a quick look at your dining table right now. If you saw it through the eyes of opportunity, would it want to take a seat? Part 1. The dining table, the quiet heart of the home. Most people think of their dining table as just another piece of furniture. A surface to set plates on, maybe scatter some mail or serve a quick dinner before rushing off to the next thing. But in homes where prosperity seems to stay year after year, the dining table plays a very different role. It's not just a spot to eat, it's the quiet heart of the home. It's where energy gathers. Decisions are made without even realizing it, and the tone for the entire household is set. Think about the moments that happen here. The morning coffee that steadies your thoughts before a busy day. The quiet dinners where small comments turn into big ideas. The celebrations where laughter fills the air and makes everyone feel like they belong. These moments aren't random. They are fueled by the environment you create. When the table feels warm, cared for, and intentional, people linger, conversations flow, the air seems lighter. And believe it or not, that invisible sense of comfort and connection is magnetic to opportunity. In the same way a well-run business attracts loyal customers, a well-tended dining table attracts the kind of steady, nourishing energy that helps both relationships and finances grow. But the reverse is also true. A table that's cluttered with bills, sticky from last night's dinner, or shadowed by harsh lighting carries a different signal. It tells everyone, family, guests, even yourself, that this is a space you pass through, not a place you invest in. Over time, that neglect seeps into how you handle everything else: your schedule, your money, your well-being. Wealthy households understand this in a way most people overlook. They see the table as a stage where the daily story of their lives is played out. Every object on it is a character, some that invite more good things in and some that quietly push them out. They don't leave it to chance. The table is clear, balanced, and visually welcoming. There's always a centerpiece that draws the eye and calms the mind, lighting that makes people want to stay a little longer, and a complete absence of anything that carries the weight of stress or lack. This isn't about being fancy or spending a fortune on decor. It's about sending a consistent, silent message to everyone who sits down. This is a place of abundance. You are cared for here. That message lingers long after the meal ends, shaping how people feel, how they think, and what they believe is possible. And when your home becomes a place where people feel abundant, that same energy starts showing up in your bank account, your opportunities, and your peace of mind. So the real question is, if the dining table is the quiet heart of your home, what kind of heartbeat is it sending out right now? Part 2, 4 items that nourish prosperity. Item 1, fresh flowers or a small green plant. There's a reason some homes feel alive the moment you step inside. You sense it before you see it. The warmth, the quiet hum of comfort, the way the space seems to hold you instead of just containing you. It's not about square footage or price tags. It's about what the space is saying when no one is speaking. The dining table, more than any other surface, speaks loudest. And in homes where opportunity and stability are constant guests, there are always a few carefully chosen items on that table. Not by accident, not for decoration alone, but as anchors for the kind of life the family wants to keep living. These aren't complicated. They aren't expensive. In fact, they're so simple you might overlook them entirely. But once you understand the quiet power they hold, you'll never look at a bare table the same way again. Let's start with the first, fresh flowers or a small green plant. Walk into the kitchen of someone who seems to have life handled, steady career, healthy relationships, no constant scramble to get by, and you'll often see it without even thinking twice. A vase of sun-bright tulips, a bunch of daisies in a mason jar, a pot of herbs sitting confidently in the center of the table. You might think, well, that's pretty, and move on. But there's more going on here than color and charm. Fresh flowers and living plants are nature's proof that growth is possible in any season, that beauty and vitality can be sustained with care. They are small, persistent reminders that what you nurture will thrive, and what you neglect will wither. That message doesn't just stay in the vase. It sinks into the habits and mindset of the people who live there. A table with fresh flowers feels intentional. It says someone took the time to bring life into the room. It makes you want to sit a little longer, talk a little more, savor what's in front of you. And here's the part most people miss. That extra time, that comfort, that sense of being held by your surroundings, those are the very conditions in which trust builds, ideas are shared, and decisions that shape your future are made. When the environment says, this is a place worth slowing down for, your mind opens. You notice things you might have rushed past. You make connections, not just in conversation, but in thought. But the magic isn't automatic. Flowers can't be just a placeholder, a duty you check off every few weeks. If the petals are drooping, if the leaves are yellowing, the message changes. Suddenly the table isn't saying, life grows here. It's whispering, things fall apart if you're not paying attention. That energy seeps in too. It's why wealthy homes replace arrangements the moment they fade. They don't wait for beauty to decay before tending to it. They understand the quiet link between caring for what's in plain sight and attracting what's still unseen. The choice of flowers or plants matters less than their condition, but certain types do carry a stronger presence. Large blooms like hydrangeas or peonies fill a space with abundance. Bright, upright stems like sunflowers or gladiolus bring a note of optimism and ambition. A small potted rosemary or basil plant not only adds greenery but invites you to interact, snipping a sprig for dinner, releasing fragrance into the air. Each time you touch it, you're reinforcing the idea that this table is alive and contributing to your life. Placement is simple. The center of the table is the heartbeat. That's where the eye lands first and where the energy gathers. A plant shoved to the corner says, this is an afterthought. A plant centered, thriving says, this matters. Even the container counts. A chipped jar or cloudy vase dulls the effect. Clear glass, clean ceramic, smooth wood, these speak of care without shouting for attention. And there's a subtle benefit that science supports. Fresh greens and vibrant blooms improve mood. They ease stress, they make food taste better by lifting the senses, and they encourage people to eat together instead of drifting off to separate rooms. That shared time is worth more than any centerpiece you could buy, because shared time builds shared vision, and shared vision is the foundation of both emotional and financial stability. If you've ever walked into a high-end restaurant or a luxury hotel dining room, you've likely noticed it. There is almost always something living on the table. Not fake, not forgotten. Alive. That's not because it photographs well for their marketing. It's because those who design for success know that the moment a guest sits down, their eyes need somewhere to land that says, "You're in good hands here." That's the first impression that keeps people coming back. And in your own home, you are both the guest and the host. What's on your table is a signal you send to yourself every single day. So the question isn't, should I put flowers or a plant on my dining table? The question is, what am I willing to nurture here day after day so it keeps giving back to me? Because prosperity isn't built in a moment, it's sustained through the quiet, almost invisible choices you make over and over. And in the center of your dining table, a living thing can stand as proof that you're making the choice to grow. Item 2, a bowl of salt and a glass of clean water. If fresh flowers and living plants bring the energy of growth, salt and water bring the energy of protection and flow. They don't shout for attention like a bouquet in full bloom, but their presence is just as deliberate, and their work is constant. Think of them as the silent guardians of your dining table's atmosphere, the invisible hands that keep what's good in and what's heavy or disruptive out. In homes where abundance feels steady and drama rarely takes root, you'll often find them quietly sitting in the center or near the centerpiece, as if they've always belonged there. Salt has been used in kitchens and dining rooms for centuries, not just to season food, but to preserve, to cleanse, to keep things safe from spoilage. Its role is practical, yes, but it's also symbolic. A small, clean bowl of pure white salt on the table sends a clear signal. This is a space where harmful energy has no seat. It's not about superstition, it's about intention. Every grain is a reminder that what enters this space, whether it's a conversation, an idea, or a guest, will be met with clarity and steadiness. The salt doesn't fix problems for you, but it creates the kind of environment where solutions can surface without being clouded by tension or distraction. Water plays the other half of the role. Where salt holds the line, water invites movement. A clear glass filled with fresh, clean water catches light in a way that's almost hypnotic. It reflects what's around it. It shifts and ripples with the slightest motion. It reminds you that wealth, like water, is not meant to be stagnant. It needs to move, to be replenished, to be kept clean so it can nourish rather than decay. Place that glass beside the bowl of salt and you have a visual balance. One element anchoring, one element flowing. Together, they tell the story of stability and growth working in harmony. But here's where most people get it wrong. They treat these as decorative props instead of living symbols. A bowl of salt left to gather dust, a glass of water left sitting until it grows cloudy, sends the exact opposite message you want. It says, we've stopped paying attention. We've let the flow slow down. In the same way you wouldn't serve stale bread to a guest you want to impress, you can't serve stale symbols to the energy you're inviting in. In homes that keep their prosperity steady, the salt is checked and refreshed regularly. The water is poured fresh each morning, sometimes again in the afternoon, so it's always bright and clear. This isn't about ritual for ritual's sake, it's about consistency. And consistency is one of the most powerful signals you can send to yourself and to life. Even the choice of containers matters. A small white ceramic dish for the salt feels clean and timeless. A clear glass or crystal tumbler for the water allows light to move through it. You don't need ornate designs or expensive pieces, but you do need them to be cared for. No streaks, no chips, no stains. Every detail tells part of the story. A neglected container tells of neglected priorities. A clean, intentional one says, what happens here matters. There's also a psychological effect that's easy to overlook. When you see these two simple elements, salt and water, together on your table every day, they become a subconscious cue. Without thinking, you associate your dining area with cleanliness, refreshment, balance. You sit down and feel, without knowing why, more ready to have a peaceful conversation, to enjoy your meal, to think about the future without feeling weighed down. Those small emotional shifts influence the way you speak to your family, the choices you make during the meal, even the tone you carry back into the rest of your day. And while fresh flowers may draw comments from guests, salt and water tend to fly under the radar. They're not there to be admired. They're there to work quietly in the background, like the foundation of a house, rarely noticed but absolutely essential. You can think of them as the table's security system, not in the sense of locking people out, but in the sense of keeping the atmosphere safe, open, and ready to receive. When placed with intention, these two elements also act as a kind of reset button for the room. Had an argument in the morning, freshen the water, replace the salt. Notice tension building over the week. Take a moment to clear and reset both before the next family dinner. The act itself is simple, but it reinforces a bigger truth. You have the power to shift the tone of your home in minutes. And that power, used consistently, changes more than just the way the table looks. It changes the way life feels inside these walls. When you pair salt and water with the living energy of flowers or plants, something subtle but profound happens. The table starts to feel complete, balanced between growth and protection, between movement and stability. Guests may not consciously notice the combination, but they'll feel it. Meals linger. Voices soften. Plans made here tend to stick. And over time, those are the conditions under which prosperity stops feeling like something you chase and starts feeling like something that simply lives here, just as naturally as you do. So before you think of these as just a bowl or just a glass, remember, they are placeholders for the qualities you want in your life. Clarity, renewal, protection, flow. All it takes is a few seconds each day to keep them alive. And in return, they'll keep the space where so much of your life happens ready for more of what you actually want to come through the door. Item 3. Warm light. If flowers and plants bring life and salt and water safeguard it, then warm light is what makes that life feel worth gathering around. Light is the dining table's voice. It shapes the mood, defines the scene, and quietly influences whether people want to stay or drift away. In the most welcoming homes, light is never an afterthought. It's intentional, like a well-timed compliment or the perfect background music at just the right volume. Think of the difference between sitting under a harsh fluorescent bulb and sitting in the soft glow of a table lamp or candlelight. One makes you squint, rush your meal, and feel like you're in a waiting room. The other makes you lean back, breathe deeper, and feel safe enough to let the conversation wander. The truth is, light doesn't just show us what's in front of us. It changes how we experience it. Food looks richer, colors feel warmer, and faces appear softer. And when the people around the table feel softer toward each other, connection deepens. Wealthy households often treat their dining table the way fine restaurants do, as a stage where the lighting is part of the performance. The food might be good, but the way it's lit makes it unforgettable. Soft, golden light draws attention to the best parts: the colors in the meal, the sparkle of glassware, the texture of the table itself. It creates a sense of occasion, even on an ordinary Tuesday night. That sense of occasion signals value. When you value a space, you take care of it, and that care tends to ripple into other areas of your life, including your finances. Warm light works because it speaks to something ancient in us. Humans have gathered around fire for thousands of years. Fire meant safety, food, and community. That same instinct makes us feel more at ease in the presence of a soft, steady glow. A single candle can change the way a room feels. 2 candles can make it feel balanced and complete. A small lamp with a warm-toned bulb can wrap the whole table in a halo that says, "Stay a while." But just like flowers left to wilt or water left to stagnate, lighting can send the wrong message if neglected. Flickering bulbs, burned-out wicks, or light that's too dim to see your meal clearly all create discomfort, even if it's subtle. The goal isn't to make the room dark. It's to make it feel intimate without being hidden. Think about the spaces you've enjoyed spending time in. A friend's cozy kitchen, a favorite cafe, a quiet corner of a wine bar. Chances are the lighting was intentional, not accidental. Placement matters here, too. A lamp or candle should be positioned so that its light falls evenly without casting harsh shadows on faces. It should illuminate the center of the table without blinding anyone sitting across from it. If you're using candles, unscented or lightly scented is best. Too strong a fragrance competes with the meal. Choose scents that complement food like vanilla, soft citrus, or a hint of spice. If you prefer electric light, opt for bulbs labeled warm white or soft white, ideally in the 2700K to 3000K range. This gives a golden tone instead of the cold blue cast of higher K bulbs. The beauty of warm light is that it's both visual and emotional. Visually, it enhances what's in front of you. Emotionally, it signals that this is a place where good things happen, where you can relax your shoulders and let your guard down. That's not just nice for family dinners. It's vital for the kind of conversations that build trust, spark ideas, and strengthen relationships. And those relationships, whether with family, friends, or business partners, are often where new opportunities begin. There's a reason top-tier hotels, private clubs, and upscale event venues invest heavily in lighting design. They know that people remember how a place made them feel more than they remember the specifics of the decor. A warm glow makes people feel valued, and when you feel valued in a space, you want to return to it. Imagine your dining table becoming that kind of space, not just for guests, but for you. Maintaining this element is simple but non-negotiable. Keep candles fresh and ready to light, with wicks trimmed to avoid smoke. Check lamps regularly to ensure the bulbs are working and the shades are clean. Make adjusting the light part of setting the table just as important as laying out the plates. You're not just preparing for a meal, you're preparing for connection, for memory making, for the kind of energy that makes abundance feel natural. When you combine warm light with the living presence of flowers or plants, and the protective balance of salt and water, the table takes on a layered richness. It's not just pretty anymore, it's magnetic. People notice. They may not say, "Wow, the lighting here is amazing," but they'll stay longer, laugh more easily, and leave feeling fuller than the meal alone could make them. That's when you know you've shifted from serving food to serving an experience. And experiences are what people, including yourself, are drawn to repeat. So, as you think about your own dining table, ask yourself, is the light here an afterthought, or is it a deliberate part of the invitation you're making every time someone sits down? Because that invitation isn't just for the people in the room, it's for the kind of life you want to keep welcoming in. Item 4, touches of gold and red. If flowers and plants breathe life into the table, if salt and water keep its energy pure and flowing, and if warm light makes that life feel worth staying for, then color. The right color is what seals the invitation. Among all the shades you could choose, 2 stand out when it comes to creating an atmosphere that feels abundant, celebratory, and magnetic to opportunity: gold and red. These are not random picks from a decorator's palette. They work because they speak directly to the human senses and emotions, tapping into instincts we've carried for generations. Gold, in all its forms, signals value. From the coins and jewelry that have been treasured for centuries to the golden tones of sunlight that make a room feel alive, the color is tied to the idea of stability, richness, and something worth holding onto. On a dining table, gold doesn't have to be literal metal. It can be the warm hue of a serving platter, the rim of a glass, the creamy yellow of a well-baked bread crust, or the golden glow in a sauce drizzled just before serving. When people see gold, they feel a quiet sense of security, as if the meal, and by extension the life built around it, is generous and dependable. Red works differently. It's the spark, the pulse, the energy that wakes up a space. Red is the color of ripe fruit, of glowing embers, of a heart beating a little faster in anticipation. It has a physical effect, stimulating the appetite, sharpening focus, and encouraging lively conversation. On the table, it can appear in the deep ruby of a wine poured into waiting glasses, the pop of a ripe tomato in a salad, the rich tone of roasted vegetables, or the inviting crimson of a sauce that begs for bread to be dipped into it. Red doesn't just decorate the table, it energizes the people around it. The magic happens when gold and red appear together, balanced so that neither overpowers the other. Picture a golden roast chicken surrounded by red-skinned potatoes, or a rich butternut squash soup served in bowls with a warm red glaze. The colors work in harmony, playing off the soft greens of herbs or the creamy whites of side dishes. This balance matters because it mirrors what you want in your life: security with a spark, stability with movement, comfort with excitement. Too much gold alone can feel static, like wealth that sits but doesn't grow. Too much red can feel restless, like constant motion without a foundation. Together, they create a complete picture. The beauty of this element is that it's not limited to special occasions. You don't have to wait for a holiday to bring out touches of gold and red. In fact, weaving them into everyday meals keeps the table's energy consistent, a steady reminder that abundance is not just for rare moments. It's a constant state you can live in. That might mean keeping a set of deep red cloth napkins on hand to pair with your neutral plates, or using a wooden serving board with a natural golden tone as the base for bread, cheese, or fruit. It could be as simple as adding a handful of cherry tomatoes to a green salad or serving roasted carrots glazed until their edges turn a rich caramel gold. What matters is intention. Without it, color is just color. With it, color becomes language. When you place a dish with golden tones in front of someone, you're telling them, this is solid, reliable, satisfying. And you add red to the same setting, you're saying, and this is exciting, joyful, alive. That combination changes the way the meal is experienced. People may not name it, but they'll feel it. And in the same way, a well-lit, thoughtfully arranged table invites longer conversations and deeper connections. A table with the right colors invites people to feel optimistic about what comes next. It's worth noting that gold and red don't have to dominate the table to have an effect. In fact, restraint can be more powerful. Let these colors appear as highlights rather than walls of color, accents that draw the eye and the appetite without overwhelming. A splash of red in a garnish, a shimmer of gold in the candlelight reflecting off a serving spoon. These are the details that make a table feel designed, not accidental. The sensory impact goes beyond sight. Red can make food smell richer because of the associations your brain makes with certain spices and ingredients. Gold-toned foods, especially those with buttery or roasted aromas, tend to trigger feelings of comfort before you even take a bite. When sight and smell work together, the experience is anchored more deeply in memory, which is why meals shared at a table with these elements tend to be the ones people talk about long after they are over. When you combine touches of gold and red with the other three elements, living greenery, salt, and water, warm light, the table becomes more than a place to eat. It becomes a signal to yourself and to everyone who sits there that this home is a place where life is valued, celebrated, and sustained. And when a space consistently sends that signal, the opportunities that match it tend to find their way in. So the next time you prepare your table, think beyond the menu. Think about how the colors on the table make people feel before the first bite. Because while taste satisfies hunger, it's the overall atmosphere that satisfies the soul. And that's the kind of satisfaction that keeps both people and prosperity coming back. Part 3. 4 things to never place on the table. Some things belong on a dining table because they invite connection, stability, and prosperity. And some things, no matter how harmless they seem, push those same things away. The problem is, these items are so common most people don't even notice them. They become part of the background, sitting there meal after meal, quietly telling a story you would never choose for your home if you realized what it was saying. If your dining table is the heart of your home, then think of these items as the habits that clog its arteries. Remove them, and you immediately make room for more of what you actually want to flow through your life. The first offender is the wallet or handbag. You carry them everywhere, through crowded stores, across dusty sidewalks, onto public seats. They pick up not just dirt, but the energy of constant transaction. Money in, money out, hands exchanging, items passing from one place to another. When you drop that bag or wallet onto your dining table, you're symbolically putting the energy of spending, not saving, right where your family is supposed to be nourished. It's a signal that money moves out faster than it comes in. And beyond the symbolic, there's the hygiene factor. Do you really want the bottom of your bag, fresh from the floor of a bus or the corner of a store, sharing space with the food you eat? Wealthy households understand this boundary. They give wallets and bags their own place, a small tray by the door, a shelf in the closet, so the table stays free of that restless, outgoing energy. The second is bills or debt paperwork. Even if you're not actively thinking about them, their presence changes the tone of the table. A neat stack of envelopes may seem harmless, but each one is a reminder of obligations, deadlines, and money leaving your account. It's like placing a low-grade anxiety right in the middle of your meal. You might think you're ignoring it, but your body knows it's there, and that tension shows up in the conversation, the mood, even your digestion. Meals are for nourishment, both physical and emotional. Mixing that with financial stress creates a mental association you don't want, where family time feels tied to financial worry. Instead, keep all paperwork in a dedicated spot elsewhere. When you sit down to eat, let the table hold only the energy of plenty, not the shadow of scarcity. The third is chipped, cracked, or worn-out tableware. You may think it still works, and practically speaking, it does. But the message it sends is subtle but powerful. We're willing to live with broken things. Every chip and crack is a visual reminder of loss, of something once whole now diminished. That repetition shapes how you think about your own resources, whether to replace something when it's worn, whether to believe you can have better. Wealth-conscious homes replace damaged items promptly, not out of vanity, but to keep the daily visual story one of care and completeness. And this doesn't mean replacing everything with expensive pieces. It means choosing things that are whole and functional, because they reflect the wholeness and functionality you want in other parts of your life. The fourth is sharp objects, knives, scissors, or anything with a cutting edge, left on the table after they've served their purpose. Yes, they're tools, and yes, sometimes you need them for serving. But once the task is done, they should be put away. A blade on the table holds the energy of division and interruption. It signals that something here could be cut short, whether it's the flow of conversation, the warmth of the atmosphere, or even the stability of your resources. There's also the safety issue. Accidents happen when sharp tools are left out. The dining table should be a place where people relax, not one where they subconsciously keep their guard up because of what's sitting within reach. What all these items have in common is that they don't just take up physical space. They take up emotional and energetic space. They change the way people feel when they sit down, and over time, they shape the kind of experiences that happen there. A wallet on the table makes it easier to talk about what you need to buy next instead of what you're grateful for now. A pile of bills turns conversation toward obligations instead of opportunities. A chipped plate subtly lowers the standard of what you accept. A knife left out can cut a moment short before it's ready to end. Removing these four things costs nothing but awareness. You don't have to buy anything new or rearrange your entire home. You simply make a decision that your dining table is a place for nourishment and connection, and that it will hold only the objects that support those purposes. This choice might feel small, but like most small, consistent choices, it accumulates power over time. Imagine walking into your dining room tonight and seeing the table completely free of anything that doesn't belong. The surface is clear except for the items that actively welcome good things in. Maybe the flowers, the salt and water, the warm light, the touches of gold and red. That clarity doesn't just look better, it feels better. And when you sit down in that kind of space, you show up differently. You eat more slowly. You speak more thoughtfully. You notice the people you're with instead of the paperwork you need to deal with. And little by little, that shift creates a home where abundance feels natural because you've removed the quiet, constant signals that tell it to leave. Your dining table is the heart of your home. These 4 don'ts are like habits that weaken its rhythm. Take them away and you let the heart beat stronger. Keep them there and you let the drain continue. The choice is yours, and it starts the moment you decide what will and will not be allowed a seat at your table. We've walked through the heart of your home, the dining table, and looked at it through a different lens. Not just as a surface for meals, but as a living signal that tells everyone, including yourself, what kind of life belongs here. We've seen how 4 simple elements, fresh flowers or a green plant, a bowl of salt and a glass of clean water, warm light and touches of gold and red, can work together like a team. Each has its role: growth, protection, warmth, and celebration. When they share the table, they create an atmosphere where connection deepens, ideas take root, and prosperity feels natural rather than forced. We've also named the 4 intruders: wallets and handbags, bills and debt papers, chipped or broken tableware, and sharp objects. They don't seem dangerous at first glance. But the truth is, they quietly work against everything you're trying to build. They bring in the energy of spending instead of saving, obligation instead of opportunity, decay instead of wholeness, and division instead of unity. Even if you don't consciously notice it, your mind and body respond to these cues, and over time they shape the tone of your home. None of this is magic. It's environment design, a concept well understood in psychology and behavioral science. The spaces we spend time in affect the way we think, feel, and act. A table that looks and feels cared for encourages us to care for other parts of our lives. A table that holds beauty, balance, and intention tells us we deserve those same things outside of mealtime. And a table free from signals of stress or scarcity leaves more room for gratitude, creativity, and optimism to show up. When you combine the right elements and remove the wrong ones, you're not just making your dining table look better. You're turning it into a daily, physical reminder of the life you want to live. Every time you sit down, you're stepping into a space that supports you, not one that drains you. And over days, weeks, and years, those small, repeated moments add up. They change how you see your home, how you use your time, and how you welcome prosperity in all its forms. So, as you clear your table tonight or set it for the next meal, remember, you're not just arranging objects. You're setting the tone for your home's heartbeat. And the way it beats will echo in every other part of your life.